What kind of dog is that?
Hello, Neil. Hello, Neil. Trudy. We're good? Okay. Okay. Ready when you are. Shabbat Shalom. Welcome, everyone. I'm Rabbi Michael Feshbach. I'm delighted to be back with Gilker Sprauv, our wonderful musician who was away last week, and to welcome back Layla Richmond, streaming our services back from Indiana and back on island, but showing me great pictures of white, fluffy stuff that is kind of chilly, including one of her brother sliding in this white fluffy stuff. So for Virgin Islanders, that was a treat, I hope, to have a taste of the cold. But we welcome each other with light and with warmth. It is wonderful to have many of you back. We've been carrying on in all sorts of ways by virtual and with a skeleton crew in some instances. So welcome back to many of our regulars, to the Yedwabs who will be regulars, to Rick, who is back, and Jayan, and to our guests from New York and Boston, to Toby and Ted, who are here from New Jersey, who have been regulars at services many Friday nights, high holidays, and every Shabbat morning since COVID began. So welcome to the Kaufman family as well. If I missed anybody, we'll greet each other later. Shabbat Shalom to all of you. Candles will be lit this night with the Kavanah, the introductory reading on page 121 by Wendy Yedwab, and then the bracha on page 120, as we welcome Shabbat into our midst and into our lives. Page 121. What? Sure, light them first.
As these Shabbat candles give light to all who behold them, so may we, by our lives, give light to all who behold us. As their brightness reminds us of the generations of Israel who have kindled light, so may we, in our own day, be among those who kindle light. Baruch atah
Shabbat Shalom. Consider yourself whatever we did before COVID. Pages 124 through 127, a selection of one of those paragraphs in personal prayer. Kabbalat Shabbat, the psalms and songs with which we welcome Shabbat. Lechu Noranana from Psalm 95 and Shiru Ladonai from Psalm 96, pages 130 and 131. Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai, sing unto God a new song. Page 131. Shiru Ladonai. Exalt Adonai our God, and bow toward God's holy hill. Romamu Adonai Eloheinu from Psalm 99, page 135. Page 138 and 139, stanzas 1, 2, 5, and 9, L'chadodi. Shabbat page 139. I keep getting alerts on my phone about a rip current. And I see white caps foaming in Megan's Bay. And I heard there was a whale visible from the far end of the East End in the past week or so. I don't know if you get these things on Lake Michigan or other waters where you are from. So we turn now in celebration of where we are to page 141, the last non-indented section together. The ocean sounds Adonai. The ocean sounds its thunder. The ocean sounds its pounding. Above the thunder of the mighty waters, more majestic than the breakers of the sea, is Adonai, majestic on high. Your decrees are indeed enduring. Holiness befits your house, Adonai, for all times. Shalom Aleichem, page 142. Towards the bottom of page 143 together. Waking from his sleep, Jacob said, "Truly Adonai is in this place, and I did not know it." He was awestruck and said, "How awe-inspiring is this place! This is none other than the house of God, and this is the gate of heaven." Chetzi Kaddish, page 144. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה. בעלמא יברך חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון, ובחיי דכל בית ישראל. בגלה, בגלה, ובזמן קריב ויאמרו, יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם לעולמי עלמיה, יתברך, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקדושה, לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דמירן בעלמא ויאמרו. As we continue with Baruch Hu, page 146, please rise. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. 149 together. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, HaMa'ariv, Aravim. 150, everlasting love, you offered your people Israel by teaching us Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts. Therefore, Adonai, our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate on your laws and your commandments. We will rejoice in your Torah forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life, and doing them lengthens our days. Never remove your love from us. Praise to you, Adonai, who loves your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, Ohev Amo Yisrael. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch be seated. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'v'chol nafshecha u'v'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha v'shinantam levanecha v'dibarta bam B'shivtecha b'veitecha uv'lechtecha v'derech uv'shochbecha uv'kumecha u'ksharatam le'ot al yadecha v'hayu letotafot b'neinecha u'chtavtam al mezuzot beitecha uv'isharecha leman tiskeru v'asitem et kol mitzvotai V'tem kedoshim le'Elohechem, Ani Adonai Elohechem, Asher hotzeiti etchem me'eretz Mitzrayim, liot lachem le'Elohim, Ani Adonai Elohechem. Adonai Elohechem, Emet. Page 157. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands, marching together. Arakifad Adonai et Yaakov, ugalo me'ad chazak mimenu, Baruch atah Adonai, Ga'al Yisrael. Page 161. Together, let there be love and understanding among us. Let peace and friendship be our shelter from life's storms. Adonai, help us to walk with good companions, to live with hope in our hearts and eternity in our thoughts, that we may lie down in peace and rise up waiting to do your will. Baruch atah Adonai, hapores sukat shalom aleinu, ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. In the PowerPoint slide, which we have been using for some time now when services are entirely online, in the lead-in to the Amidah, we take this phrase from the top of page 165 and we pair it with that iconic picture of Dr. Martin Luther King marching with Rabbi Abraham Joshua Heschel, Joshua Heschel marching with Dr. King. Should be that way, right? And above it are the words from Dr. Heschel, Rabbi Heschel, when I marched in Selma, I felt as if my feet were praying. And then on the bottom of the slide are the words from the top of 165, pray as if everything depended on God. Act as if everything depends on you. The Amidah, the Tefillah, page 164. Please rise. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagid tehillatech. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zocher Chasdei Avot V'imahot, Umevi Gula Livnei V'neihem, L'ma'an Shemo B'Ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshia U'Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah. Atah gibor leolam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atah av lo shia. Mashiv haruach umorid hakashem, Mechalkel chayim bechesed. Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim. Somech noflim vedofei cholim. Umatir asurim. Umekayem emunato. Lishene afar. Michamocha bal givurot. Umido melach. Melech memit umechaye, umatzmiach Yeshua, v'neman atah lachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, mechaye hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, kadoshim b'chol yom yehalelucha selah, Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakah. Continue in personal prayer, standing or seated. The bottom of page 180 for Oseh Shalom. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzhak v'Yaakov v'imotenu Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah v'Yivarech v'Yirapeh et Acholim ha'ele. O God, who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, send your blessing and your healing, your comfort and your hope to all those whose names appear before us in the service sheet, and in addition to those names, or even including them, if you would like, we add the following: those of our loved ones, those of our family, those of our friends and neighbors who are ill and in need of our attention. First from me, then from you, and then from anybody on Zoom. Mort Novick, Paul Fierzig, Adela Gia, Jerry Silverman. Anyone on Zoom?
Tim McGaffick,
Anyone on Zoom?
Robert Quatska,
McGaffick,
Robert Quatska,
Baruch atah Adonai Rofeh Cholim, we praise you, O God, who helps us heal, who brings us comfort. An image from Parashat Tetzaveh. Years ago, when this service fell on family services, I would dress up as Mr. Wizard. And I would have a big vat of a giant tub of water, and I would bring in some extra virgin olive oil, and I would do an experiment in front of everybody. It says in the beginning of this parsha, we shall take the clear oil of beaten olives, just pressed once, extra virgin olive oil, and use it as the oil for the lamp. And so throughout the ages, commentators have said, why and how are the Jewish people like olive oil? And some answers have been because, like olives, to get oil, we get stepped on and crushed. And others are that were really, really old. Others have given an explanation, which is what led me to dress up as Mr. Wizard, which was to say that when you put oil in water, it does not dissolve. And the implication, of course, was that the quality and it held together, and it was kind of a chauvinistic implication. But I have to say that, look, the water with the oil in it is different than if there is no oil in it. And the oil in the water is different than oil alone. And it is that question of how much we dissolve or stay together and how much we interact with the world around us and are affected by it that is at the heart of what I want to share with you for this 3 weeks of what I have called a February Forum on Jewish Diversity. Now, to start, I want to say that Whoopi Goldberg is still hovering over many of our conversations. I have always been a fan of hers, and that was even before Star Trek: The Next Generation. Wow, she's good in that. And never did figure out where she was from or what species she was there. Okay, so she got in trouble a few weeks ago. And she said something which I think was, at the very least, partially inaccurate in her remarks about the Holocaust and it being not about race. Here's the thing, that's an extremely complicated question. one of the things, I do not for a moment think she was expressing anti-Semitism. The anti-Semitism I've seen has actually been in reaction to her being suspended. Now, almost no Jewish leaders that I know of, except the predictable bullies on the far right and extremists, wanted her to be fired. This was an educational moment. This was not an opportunity for a knee-jerk overreaction. So no Jewish leaders that I know of, or very, very few, called for her suspension. And yet what I've seen is, oh, the Jews, whenever you see that phrase, your hackle should get up, got a woman of color fired. Well, look, first of all, she apologized. Secondly, I think the apology sounded pretty sincere to me. And third, it's a very complicated question. So I'll give you an example. One of the best pieces I saw written about this was by somebody whose name I did not know, named Tim Wright, I think, but it was posted by somebody in the Virgin Islands. Gilchrist had an interesting comment on it, on that piece. That was a really nice, nuanced piece that took on this question of race and Jewish identity. But look, to give an example of how complicated this is, who was the first Hispanic justice on the United States Supreme Court? Benjamin Cardozo, right? Why don't people think he was the first Hispanic justice? Because not everybody thinks Portuguese.
Because he was Jewish.
Because not everybody thinks Jews are Portuguese, right? He was a Sephardic Jew. This congregation and its history should know that Sephardic Judaism is, connected to the Spanish world. And so Sonia Sotomayor was not the first Hispanic justice on the Supreme Court. So these issues are quite complicated. And the question when we have, in today's world of people having multiple levels of identity, the question of, are we Jewish? Are we American? Are we white? What is race in any event? As biologists tell us, is almost a fiction. It's not a social fiction. It's a social construct, a social reality. But from a biological point of view, it is almost meaningless. There's as much diversity within each quote-unquote race as there is between races. But this whole question of race and its timing and Black History Month and what are Jews has gotten me thinking about the question of Jewish communities who are either not white or who are in exotic places. Now, that's a loaded term. I found this book as I was clearing some books, and by the way, so far we've gotten rid of 20 boxes of books, but some of those have found their way here. So in the museum, if you want to wander there after services, are 4 or 5 of our boxes of Jewish books. Some of them may find their way to the library. Any of them may find their way into your fingers and pocketbooks if you would like. So please take a look and help us lighten our load. But look, Jewish communities in exotic places. Jewish communities that are undiscovered. Here's the thing, they're not undiscovered to them, right? The word exotic, let me put it this way. When you're in China, what do you call Chinese food? Food, right? So, like, the term exotic is in and of itself subjective, as the author clearly acknowledges. In looking, we are often the subject of some of these surveys, Jews in the Caribbean, right? But as Jews who are here, let's take a look at some of the other Jewish communities in the world. Over the next 3 weeks, we'll be looking tonight at Jews of Africa. Next week at the very complicated Jewish communities in India. And then finally, at the end of February, the Kaifeng Jews, Jews in China, and some other communities I have not had a chance to speak about. In looking at these communities, one has to ask a number of questions. One, are they connected to the larger world or isolated? And I'll tell you a story of isolation in a moment, but Rabbi Yedwab earlier told me that one of his colleagues on his staff has found another group of Jews in Ethiopia that were even unconnected to the other three groups of Jews or those of Jewish descent from Ethiopia that we already know about. Are they connected or isolated? Is the community ancient, as the Beta Israel probably are? Is it medieval, the subject of migration of Jewish communities from one place to another? Or is it modern and is in some ways an assumed Jewish identity, as the Abu Yudaya and possibly the Igbo probably are? So that is one of the questions. I am not, when I'm speaking about Jews in Africa, I am going to not speak for now about the Mizrahi, the Jewish Arab or Oriental, to use an old term, Jewish communities in North Africa, nor am I speaking about the Anglo and Dutch Jewish communities in South and Southern Africa in, what did it used to be called, Zimbabwe? Rhodesia. I met somebody who was from Rhodesia, and then she was all confused because she wasn't from Rhodesia anymore, because there was no Rhodesia. So those are not the communities I'm speaking of now. When most of us think of Jews in Africa, we think first of the Jews of Ethiopia, the Beta Israel. Certainly that is what I think of first. I open with this story. This is the community that is the one that I am the most familiar with for personal reasons. I open with the story that when the French Jewish explorer in the 1800s, Jacques Feitlovich, found these Jews in Ethiopia, and he said to them that he was Jewish. They laughed at him. Why? There are no white Jews in the world. They had been not in contact with the larger Jewish community for so many centuries that they thought they were the only Jews in the world. My personal interest corresponds to my time both at Hebrew Union College and others. My rabbinic year at HUC was 1984-85, and that was the year that there was the first massive wave of a secret airlift out of the refugee camps of Sudan of people who had walked for weeks and survived the famine in Ethiopia and been airlifted to Israel in secret. It was not yet, we were not yet able to speak about it. And then a few years later, I got to fulfill a pre-Trump fantasy of mine, which was, I had written a perfectly good sermon that Friday, and I finished it up, and I made the mistake of turning on NPR at 5 o'clock when I was an assistant rabbi in Boca Raton, Florida, in 1991, on June 3rd, 1991. And there was the news breaking of the massive airlift of the remaining Jews of Ethiopia. So in front of the congregation, I did what apparently President Trump did with sensitive documents. I took my sermon, I've still, somewhere in my computer, in old floppy disks, still is that sermon. I remember it was about Rajiv Gandhi and India. I never gave that sermon, because I then spoke from my heart about the Jewish community of Ethiopia, and this is what happens when you have rabbis in the congregation. It happened to make the front page of the Jewish Journal the next day about this dramatic rescue of the Jews of Ethiopia. Who are they? The stories and legends about the origins of the Beta Israel are quite different. Many people claim that they are descended from King Solomon, who had a consort. He almost tricked her into this relationship, the Queen Sheba of Ethiopia, and their son Menelik, born in Jerusalem, went off to Ethiopia with many people from Jerusalem, and that's the origin of that community. That is part of the national folklore of Ethiopia, but it is likely not exactly true. From the Middle Ages, from the 9th century, somebody named Eldad Hadani, Eldad of the tribe of Dan, and Benjamin of Tulida a few centuries later, also claimed that they were the remnants of the tribe of Dan. Before I go on, I want to share something with you from the preface of this book. People who had persisted in Jewish identity in the most unexpected places. Tattooed black proto-Mosaic hut dwellers from the remote highlands of northwestern Ethiopia. Locust-eating, dagger-wielding polygamists from the southern Arabian Peninsula. Why, by the way, this is not tonight's topic, but why locust eating? Why were they eating locusts and being Jewish? Locusts are kosher if you know how to make a distinction between certain kinds of locusts that the rest of the Jews of the world said, we don't know how to make that distinction anymore, so they're all not kosher. Right? Well, apparently the rabbis in Yemen never forgot how to make that distinction. So locust-eating, dagger-wielding polygamists, conjuring cave dwellers from the mountain escarpments above the Sahara, sporting feathered tufts that looked like mohawks, golden earrings, and peyote, earlocks. These and others all claim descent from patriarchs of the 10 lost tribes. So the other possibility is that there was a migration from Egypt of Jews who were in Egypt in the early centuries before the Common Era. And personally, I think there's some possibilities there. After all, one of the clues is the Jews of Ethiopia know about the Bible, although in Ge'ez, right, in its holy language of Ge'ez, but not the book of Esther, and they do not celebrate the story of Hanukkah, which is post-biblical. So they have had no contact with the rest of the Jewish world from after the Bible, but before the Talmud. So I think that the story of an ancient origin is fairly likely. The other theory is that they were Christian Ethiopians who started practicing more of the quote-unquote Old Testament in the 14th and 16th centuries. The name Beta Israel is the name they prefer for themselves. What are they referred to by others? Falasha. The word means stranger and is an insult, just like the word Marano is a term which means pig, meaning people who didn't eat pig, right? And we prefer the term conversos. The community calls itself the Beta Israel. Its customs are biblical and not Talmudic. No Purim, no Hanukkah. Their leaders are called Kes rather than rabbis. And there are within the Ethiopian Jewish community, there are also subgroups. I had not known until preparing for tonight about the Beta Avraham, another group which may have some connection to the Falasha Mora. The Falasha Mora were the last to come to Israel, and the ones whose Jewish identity has been the most disputed, they are a group who were, the Falasha Mora, a group who were Ethiopian Jews and then under pressure in the late 1800s converted to Christianity after centuries of keeping a Jewish identity and now want to reclaim a Jewish identity. So that is the Jewish community of Ethiopia. Its reception in Israel has been remarkably complicated. One of the best movies I ever saw was a movie which is in French, Hebrew, English, and Amharic called Go and Become. I don't know what it's called in the other languages, about a Christian Ethiopian boy who pretends he's Jewish to come to Israel and then is raised as a Jew in Israel and eventually comes to term with his own identity. It's extremely interesting. Somalia, a tribe called the Yibir. They're also in eastern Ethiopia and northern Kenya. They are Muslim now, but claim Jewish origins. They are mostly magicians and makers of amulets. I did not know very much about them. I knew far more about the Igbo, a community in Nigeria, probably modern. It's possible they go back to the 1500s. Currently, there are 26 synagogues in Nigeria. 30,000 Igbos practice some form of Judaism. A colleague of mine, a conservative rabbi from the Washington area, Rabbi Howard Goren, in 2006 collected funds and books from the Washington area rabbis and did a mission where he did many conversions of the Igbo, and they practice kashrut, they practice circumcision, and they celebrate at least the high holy days. The Abu Yudaya in Uganda, the name means people of Judah. This is a much more modern community. Clearly, they go back not many centuries, but to 1880, when someone named Sebi Semi Kakugulia, converted to Christianity and then studied more and decided that Judaism was more authentic for him. Probably there are 3,000 or so of the Abu Yudaya. Their music has found its way to Reform Movement camps and other circles in North America. And one leader of their community, Gershon Sizomu, who I have met, is the first native-born black rabbi in sub-Saharan Africa who came and studied in California at the University of Judaism, became a conservative rabbi, and by the way, in 2016 was elected a member of the Ugandan parliament. South Africa, not the communities that you are familiar with, but the Lemba, 70,000 members of the tribe. It's a distinct ethnic group. They are mostly Christian. There are some Muslims, but for centuries they have claimed as an oral tradition amongst themselves on the male lineage that they are descended from Aaron. And lo and behold, in the early days of DNA testing, it turns out that, at least in the early tests of DNA, it seemed like they were correct, that there was a marker that is shared by the Kohanim, the descendants of Aaron, and the male marker in the Lemba tribe. As of 2016, there are some studies that cast some doubt on this, but as of 2015, they're building a synagogue, so who am I to say no? And so we welcome the Lemba into our larger tribe of those with Jewish roots or Jewish connections. The question, here are the groups I did not share with you about tonight. There are Jewish groups or Jews who have Jewish roots in Tanzania, Cameroon, the Ivory Coast, Ghana, 2 different groups in Ghana, Kenya, Madagascar, Zambia, and more. And here we come back to the image from the very beginning, from Parshat Tetzaveh. Some of you know from your own stories of immigration or integration in your own families. Who was it who spoke Yiddish? Or who was it who spoke Ladino? How many generations ago was it? Which generation was it that ran away from it as fast as it could in order to learn the language of the land? What cultural traditions of the Virgin Islands are lost, Gilchrist, as we are part of, even if we're apart from, the United States as a whole? How does a distinct culture maintain its distinction and aspire to be connected to other groups as well? For all of us, no matter what our identity is, whether it's racial, whether it's sexual orientation, whether it's a creedal identity of belief, all of us face this question of the oil and the water. Are we affected by the world around us? Do we affect the world around us? Do we blend? Do we dissolve? As in many cases the Jews of China may have almost done, leaving a hint of a whisper of a trace which is being revived. What is happening in Israel as the Soviet Jews come in, as the Ethiopian Jews come in? What is preserved? What is lost? What is the right thing to do in building a national identity? How do we do this? You have escaped Detroit at a time of massive upheaval when just across the border, those Canadians are not being polite, for once. Now, it's only a few of them, but enough of them to not be very polite. But Canada and the United States have always had very different attitudes towards how much do you have to give up of your identity? How much is it a melting pot or a tossed salad? And that is what we look at when we look at what connects us around the world as Jews, what connects us as human beings, what do we keep, what do we blend in with? And that, I hope you have learned something tonight. I certainly did in my preparation. When I listed at the end the subgroups of Jews or those with Jewish roots in all of those other countries, I had no idea. No idea. It was that many countries in Africa with some people there with some Jewish roots. Shabbat Shalom. There are no Shabbat morning services or study tomorrow morning. We have been doing Torah study online. Ironically, because the Kaufmans are here in person, I canceled it. They've been doing it online in fact, we anticipated family members being here with us when I canceled it, and those family members were not able to come for sad reasons. But next week we continue with the Jewish communities of India, services at 6:30 p.m. next week, and then Shabbat morning Torah study the following Shabbat morning. We are also exploring a couple of other Zoom ideas, which I will present to you fairly soon. Shabbat Shalom. Marilyn, you're far from a microphone, but would you like to add anything, to come up here to greet anyone, and then I will ask for volunteers tonight to open the Ark in a moment. If you're loud, but I'll have to repeat any major points for Zoom.
No, I just wanted to greet everybody and say that I've also gone on my phone to see who's watching our service, who's participating on Zoom. And we have about 20 people here tonight, and we have 20, but so that means there are more because there are usually 2 people, but we have 20 that are watching. So we've got a big service tonight, and it just feels wonderful being part of all of this. Shabbat shalom.
Well, welcome back, and maybe in March we'll reintroduce our Oneg Shabbat in person. I hope. May we continue to do well. To our visitors, welcome. Mark, are you able to do this? Mark and Katina, can you open the Ark doors? We continue with Aleinu, the bottom of page 586. And as we continue with Aleinu, please rise. Aleinu l'shabeach ladon hakol, latet gedula liotzer breshit, shelo asanu kgoyei haratzot, velo samanu kemishpachot adama, shelo sam chelkenu kahem, vegor aleinu kechol hamonam, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. As we close the Ark doors, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסד הארץ, ומושב יקרו בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגבהי מרומים, הוא אלוהינו אין עוד, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, ככתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום השבות אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת אין עוד, ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Please be seated. We are going to break bread and kiddush from here, as we have for the past several weeks. Soon, I hope, we'll return to being in a more communal setting, but please do take a few moments, if you possibly can, to look in the back in the museum area to find my boxes of books, and please help yourself to many of them or any of them as we are donating those, and you might find some of them of some interest. I am going to note something before we begin. The Virgin Islands lost today a giant of a figure. The first person to interview me on the radio here, I did not know what a character he was and also what a really important figure he was on these islands until the hurricanes hit. And as one radio station after another went off the air, only Addie Otley's voice kept things going. Now, I kept waiting for normal traffic reports the way that I was used to getting traffic reports. I actually told him once, Gilchrist, traffic and weather together on the 8th. That is, I want to know when you're going to give the traffic. I want to know what the traffic is like. His traffic reports were, well, if you remember, when the Wheatleys had their wedding celebration and their second cousin, twice removed, got stopped at the bridge to nowhere and couldn't get there. That's how he would give the traffic reports, right? I couldn't make heads or tails out of it. But what a voice for all of us during the hurricanes. And that voice is silent now. I got to know him a little bit through my Rotary Club, but what a giant, what a tremendous figure, a past lieutenant governor of the Virgin Islands, and really somebody who got us through many, many moments. So our tributes, our honor, our respect to Addie Otley. There are stars whose radiance is visible on this earth, though they have long since ceased to exist. There are people whose light and whose warmth continue to shine for us, though they are no longer among us. These stars which shine in the dark of the night, they light the way for humankind. We remember at this time those of our congregation's beloved whose yahrzeit occurs on this Shabbat: Renee Sinai Avigdor, Morris Berger, Arnold Brandstatter, Phyllis Friedman, Bernie Goldberg, Julius H. Kessler, Ophelia Clayman, Burton Klein, Albert Laffer, Alvin B. Maesler, Morris Migdal, Guido S. Morone, Blanche Smollett Murphy, Ricky Ressin, Maya Rock, Clara Walanka, Albert Wechter. We observe yahrzeit for the following Chai members and those dear to our Chai members: Tilly Engert, Abe Applebaum, Michael Arciola, Jack Bernstein, Gertrude Berwin, Joseph Bressler, Sarah Bromberg, Alan Bronner, Joseph Cohen, Leah Dorff, Abraham Faskow, Sylvia Fleischer, Toby Gableman, Stephen Gardner, William Goldstein, Abraham Grossman, Dr. Walter Gruber, Rosalind Heyman, Miriam Henne, Gwenthieth Hewitt, Jack Hollander, Marvin Katz, Edith Lyon, Gerhard Lesky, Judith Leik, Irving Linner, Rose Locker, Toby Lowy, Riva Magid, Bia Moskoff, Julia Newman, Minerva Rosenberg, Hazel Saltzman, Jack Sandler, Leonard Shore, Olive Siegel, Celia Siegel, Edward Testa, Dorothy Vernick, Dennis Wood. During this period of Shloshim, the 30 days following their deaths, Vesta Butu, Eugene Weissman, Beverly Sachs, Robin Adler. With sorrowing hearts, we mention two who were laid to rest in recent days: Hugh Lemoyne Coombs and Addie Otley. Any other names for Kaddish? Any names I might have mispronounced, or anyone here to say Kaddish for somebody whose name I did not mention? Anyone here in the congregation? Anyone on Zoom? Anyone here in the
Robert Quatska.
Anyone on Zoom? Baruch. The memories of all of them are with us. Our griefs and sympathies are mingled as we turn now to Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. And as is the custom in most Reform synagogues, we rise as a congregation as a whole for Kaddish Yatom, for the mourner's Kaddish itself. Page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, bi'alma divrach hirutei v'amlich malchutei, V'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chaye dechol Beit Yisrael. Ba'agala uvizman kariv imru. Amen. Yehi shmei rabam v'rach leolam olmei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei dekudesha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nechamata. Ta'amiran v'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mromav. Hu ya'aseh shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. Amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn among us and wherever they may be at this time of unfathomable loss which continues even as there is a hint of hope on the horizon. Still too many at this time of pandemic and plague. May the source of peace send peace to all of us and to all who are mourning in all communities everywhere. And together let us say, Amen. Please remain standing. Our days of coming together in a circle and being close to one another are on hold, at least for now, but we conclude with the singing of Adon Olam, page 625. Gilchrist will start us, I hope, but since we then will get faster and faster, I have not sung into the microphone once, I don't think, tonight while you've been singing, but I might towards the end of Adon Olam tonight. We will see. And then Kiddush and Motzi. Adon Olam, page 625. Yitzir nivra li'et nasa v'chefso kol azay melech shemo nikra v'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu hoveh v'hu yeh b'tifara Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'et nasa v'chefso kol azay melech shemo nikra v'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu hoveh b'tifara V'hu haya v'hu hoveh b'tifara Adon olam asher malach b'terem kol yitzir nivra li'et nasa v'chefsa kol azay melech shemo nikra v'acharei kichlot hakol levado yimloch nora v'hu haya v'hu hoveh v'hu yeh b'tifara V'hu haya v'hu hoveh v'hu yeh b'tifara Shabbat Shalom.